In today's video, we are talking about a very dangerous and disturbing and calculating and manipulative form of abuse that all narcissists use on their victims, one that no normal person would ever think someone would actually do to another person, and on purpose, no less. This form of abuse is an extreme form of psychological abuse and a pretty sophisticated one at that. It's mean, it's cruel, it's crazy-making, it's incredibly harmful, and it eventually can make a victim believe he or she is losing his or her mind. Today, we're talking about something called reactive abuse. So let's define exactly what reactive abuse is and what that means. It basically just means that the victim of abuse has an adverse or aggressive reaction to the abuse they are being exposed to by their abuser. Simply put, reactive abuse occurs when the victim reacts to the abuse they are experiencing. The true narcissistic abuser will claim that the victim is the actual abuser because of the reaction the victim had to the abuse. If you are new to this channel, I'd like to take a quick moment and welcome you and invite you to please subscribe and be sure and hit that notification bell because I put out new videos every week. Also, if you are interested in private one-on-one narcissistic abuse recovery coaching with me, please visit my website. It's linked in the description below. So again, today we are talking about something called reactive abuse, which in its simplest form is described as occurring when a victim reacts to the abuse they are experiencing. The victim may have an adverse or even aggressive reaction with lots of screaming, maybe some throwing of things, possibly some nasty insults directed at the abuser will be peppered into this episode also. But it's when a victim of abuse has a reaction to the abuse they are being exposed to, specifically by narcissistic abusers. They love using this tactic because it is so easy and really, really effective. So what will happen is the victim of usually chronic and continual abuse and gaslighting eventually snaps and has a normal, ugly human reaction to the abuse that he or she is being subjected to. At that moment, the abuser flips the script, gaslights the victim regarding the true events that have taken place, and now is alleging that the victim is the actual abuser and the abuser is the victim because the victim had this reaction. Maybe not a pretty one, but certainly one that anyone would eventually have when consistently being exposed and subjected to narcissistic abuse. That is reactive abuse and also gaslighting at its finest. So why on earth do narcissistic abusers subject their victims to reactive abuse? Let's dissect this for a moment. First off, they use it as the proof that they need that the victim is mentally ill or unstable or crazy, the one that clearly needs mental health care help. That's number one. Number two, by doing this, if it's successful, and let me tell you, over time this is incredibly successful, the abuser actually is able to convince the victim that the abuse they are being exposed to is their fault. It's not the true abuser's fault, it's your fault, the victim. This is also part of the grooming and conditioning process that narcissists put primary sources of narcissistic supply through. Remember, the goal of the narcissist is to gain complete control over their victim, blame them for everything that goes wrong, and be able to abuse them whenever they feel like it. The narcissist is blame shifting and gaslighting the victim to become confused with what just took place, and slowly, over time, the victim will become more and more dependent on the abuser's interpretation of reality instead of his or her own perceptions. Another really gross and disturbing aspect that can happen to a victim who is consistently exposed to reactive abuse is it can cause the true victim to feel extreme levels of guilt and shame and actually pity their real abuser, which of course is the abuser's ultimate goal. Boy, oh boy, if that isn't power and control, I don't know what is. The abuser abuses the victim and intentionally and calculatingly tries to provoke the victim into having an adverse reaction, and then the abuser switches the scripts, switches identities with the victim, and blames them for all the problems, convincing them something must be terribly wrong with them. And on top of all of that, is able to make the true victim feel deep levels of guilt and shame about themselves while feeling pity for the abuser. That there, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the best examples of psychological abuse that I could ever give you. It's incredibly abusive. It's a form of mind control. It causes all kinds of self-doubt in the victim, along with high levels of guilt and shame. That is a narcissistic abuser's fairy tale. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. Also, follow me on my other social media platforms. The links are in the description below. Thanks for watching, everyone.